What began as a day like any other turned into a tragedy that would forever mark the history of the marine park. The morning dawned clear, with the sky tinged with pure blue and the sun reflecting off the crystal-clear surface of the Orca tank. The air was heavy with the salty scent of the sea and the growing murmur of families, couples and children eager to witness the park's star attraction. Luna, the most beloved orca, alongside her trainer, Sam Collins. Visitors began to fill the stands little by little, settling into their seats with soft drinks, popcorn and cameras ready to capture the show. Laughter, excited voices, and the hum of background music intermingled in a vibrant symphony. Everything pointed to another spectacular day. For those there, it was just entertainment. For Sam, it was his life. Sam walked along the edge of the tank with the confidence of someone who knew every inch of the place. He greeted the children who pointed at him with admiration with a calm smile, and the parents who recognized him as the trainer from TV. He was the face of the park, the heart behind the show. With nearly 12 years of experience, he had dedicated his entire career to training and caring for orcas. He had worked with many, but none as special as Luna. Luna had arrived at the park when she was just a calf. Sam had watched her grow up, trained her from her first interactions with humans, and forged a bond with her that many considered unique. "She knows me better than I know myself," he used to say with a laugh during interviews. Their mutual trust was the cornerstone of the shows and the reason thousands of people returned every year. As the audience settled in, Sam went through his pre-show routine: equipment check, safety signals, concentration. But that morning there was something, a barely perceptible nuance, that made him pause for a moment. He couldn't explain it. It was a feeling, a subtle premonition. Luna was in her tank, swimming in wide, slow circles. From a distance she looked calm, imposing and beautiful, as always. But Sam, with his experience, sensed a difference. There was a tension in her movements, a restlessness that wasn't normal. Over the past few weeks, Luna had exhibited certain behaviors that he had attributed to boredom, the change of season, or even simple fluctuations in animal mood. But that day, as he watched her glide beneath the surface, something in his gut told him not to ignore it. The audience began to applaud loudly as they heard the first chords of the show's theme song. Blue and white lights illuminated the tank, and the voice on the loudspeakers announced enthusiastically, "Let's welcome the incredible duo, Sam and Luna." The moment had arrived. With steady steps, Sam approached the platform. He knelt at the edge of the tank and gently tapped the water as he always did. Luna emerged elegantly, her large black and white body glistening in the sun, and shot a huge column of water into the sky. The audience erupted in applause and cheers. It was the perfect start. Sam stood up and gave the first signal with his arm. Luna reacted immediately, launching herself into a spectacular jump, spinning in the air. Drops of water fell like rain on the front rows. The laughter and cheers of the children mingled with the exclamations of the adults. From the outside, everything was joy. However, Sam still felt that slight uneasiness. Small details began to show in Luna's behavior. After the jump, she took longer than usual to return to the surface. She deviated slightly from her trajectory. And, most disturbing to Sam, her eyes did not seek him out with the same precision as usual. The connection, that instant spark between them, seemed clouded. Still, he decided to continue. Experience had taught him to trust not only the animal, but also his own judgment. The next part of the show included a series of jumps and movements in sync with music. Sam executed the signals calmly while Luna obeyed, sort of. Instead of doing the side jump they had rehearsed hundreds of times, Luna swam in a spiral, away from the performance area. The audience didn't notice, Sam thought. To them, it was just another impressive move. But he knew that wasn't the case. Something was wrong. Luna was improvising, and that wasn't like her. He paused for a second. He watched closely. Luna was swimming hard, but her movements were tighter, more aggressive. She was building up energy, like a storm before it breaks. Sam took a deep breath. The final part of the show was about to begin, an aquatic routine consisting of synchronized swimming between him and Luna. It was the climax of the show, the part everyone was waiting for. He hesitated, just for a second. Then he dove into the water, as he had done hundreds of times before. The water was cold but familiar. The lights above gave the tank a deep blue hue. Sam swam to the center, raised his hand, and waited. Luna appeared beside him, elegant as always, but with unusual strength in every movement. They began to swim in parallel. Sam smiled briefly, thinking that maybe he had made a mistake, that everything was under control. But then it happened. Luna broke formation. Instead of turning right, as the choreography dictated, she veered violently towards Sam. Her colossal body grazed him hard, throwing him off balance. The audience applauded enthusiastically, unaware that something was off script. Sam tried to correct the situation, turning his body and extending his hand to signal "stay away." But Luna didn't respond. Instead, she stared at him and dove underwater. Sam lost sight of her for a moment. That moment was enough. From the depths, Luna emerged with brutal speed. Sam barely had time to open his eyes underwater before he felt the impact. His leg was trapped between Luna's jaws. The pain was immediate, brutal, the kind of pain that shuts down all thought. That's when the real nightmare began. The moment Luna closed her jaws around Sam's leg was like an underwater explosion. There was no warning, no growl, no roar, just the sudden, fierce grip of a powerful creature acting on pure instinct. The pressure of the bite was so intense that Sam felt as if the bones in his leg were breaking into 1,000 pieces. A muffled scream escaped his throat, useless in that liquid blue world. The audience in the stands screamed with excitement. Some stood up. They thought it was part of the act, a new maneuver never seen before. What was physical and mental hell for Sam was just the most exciting part of the show for the audience. Luna didn't let go. Instead, she dragged him forcefully into the depths of the tank. The pain was excruciating, sharp, inhuman. Sam's blood, hot and red, mixed with the crystal-clear water, creating clouds that slowly stained the surroundings. His lungs, deprived of air, began to cry out for oxygen. Sam kicked with his free leg, tried to hit Luna's side, force her jaw open, anything. But it was useless. She was too strong, her jaw was too firm, her will was unknown. Dragged several meters deep, the pressure of the water began to pound his body. The sunlight above was blurry, distant, as if the surface were a memory from another life. He tried to remember his training. "Stay calm," he repeated to himself, but his mind was clouded with fear. It wasn't just the pain, it was the confusion, the betrayal, the absolute panic. Meanwhile, the coaches on land began to suspect something was wrong. Sam's signals had not returned. Luna was not following any routine. The water was beginning to turn red. Alarm bells went off in their heads even before they could understand what they were seeing. One of the trainers ran to the edge of the tank. Another activated the internal emergency siren. Cries of concern mingled with the music still playing. Some visitors began to notice. When they saw the blood, the applause turned to silence, then to screams. Children cried, parents hugged them, carried them away. Some ran toward the exits, others remained paralyzed, unable to look away from the horror unfolding before them. Sam was still underwater. His vision was no longer clear. Everything was red, blue, and black. Luna let go of him for a second, only to grab him again, this time by the waist. She shook him violently, like a broken toy. Sam felt his spine tense, his body no longer responding to him. He screamed, but the scream was only a bubble of despair. His arms moved slowly, as if he were swimming against lead, as if his body no longer belonged to him. He looked up at the surface, which seemed as far away as the moon itself. His leg was bleeding, his abdomen hurt, his senses were fading. Above, the trainers had thrown ropes into the water. They hit the surface with long padded sticks, trying to distract Luna, to make her back away. One of them took off his vest and prepared to jump in, knowing that protocol forbade it, but that Sam's life was at stake. The underwater rescue team had already been activated, but it would take precious minutes. Sam felt his strength leaving him. His heart was still fighting, pumping at a frantic pace. He thought of his wife, of his little daughter. He thought of Luna, of the days when she was just a puppy, and he would talk to her in a soft voice while throwing fish for her. He remembered the first time they swam together, when he trusted her more than he trusted himself. And now, that bond was a rope dragging him into the abyss. For a moment, everything went still. Luna stopped moving. She let go of Sam's body. He floated slowly upward, like a leaf falling in slow motion. His blood continued to flow, leaving a trail that faded with the currents of the tank. His body did not respond. He did not know if he was alive. He only felt an overwhelming cold. The kind of cold that gets into your bones, that not only freezes your body, but also your hope. The rescue divers finally burst in. Two of them dove in immediately with flashlights and nets. One reached Sam and grabbed him under his arms. The other watched Luna, who was now swimming slowly in circles, as if she were exhausted, or as if nothing had happened. Sam's body was lifted out of the water. The crowd fell silent as they watched him emerge, pale and motionless. One coach fell to his knees. Another shouted his name. Some children screamed. A father vomited behind one of the stands. Terror had completely replaced any trace of entertainment. Paramedics from the park rushed to the platform, trying to administer first aid. But they knew when they saw his face, when they saw the stiffness of his body and the blood that kept pouring out, that it was too late. They tried anyway. Cardiac massage, assisted breathing, but there was no heartbeat. There was no reaction, only a thick, deathly calm that enveloped everything. The park's siren blared. An immediate evacuation was ordered. No one protested. Some cried. Others simply walked in silence, staring at the ground. A family hugged each other without saying a word. A child asked, "Why did the orca hurt him?" No one answered. Hours later, the news was all over the media. Images recorded by visitors showed the moments before the attack. Smiles, music, jumping, and then chaos. The headlines were brutal. Tragedy at Marine Park, killer whale kills trainer during show. Was it human error or an animal out of control? Sam Collins, the legend who died at the hands of his greatest ally. The park closed its doors the next day. Flowers and candles were placed at the entrance. Signs with farewell messages hung on the fence. "Thank you, Sam. You will always be part of the waves. Your soul swims free." The employees were in tears. No one could find any answers. Luna was isolated in a separate tank with no contact with trainers. Some called for her to be released into the ocean. Others wanted her to be transferred to another facility. The park's management ordered an internal investigation, but for those who were there, nothing could erase the images. The laughter turned to screams, the clear water turning red, Luna's calmness after the attack, the body floating. The bond between Sam and Luna had been special, deep, unbreakable, and yet, in seconds, it was shattered. What had been a symbol of trust became an open wound. A reminder that no matter how much love is given, the wild cannot be completely tamed. Beneath the soft skin, beneath the grace of each leap, there is an ancient predator. One that never forgets it was born free. And Sam, the man who gave everything for them, fell victim to the thing he loved most. The news spread like wildfire. Just hours after the incident, images of Luna's attack on Sam Collins were already circulating on social media and national and international news outlets. Major networks interrupted their regular programming to cover the tragedy. Breaking news: Orca trainer dies during live show. The same images, repeated over and over, showed the initial joy of the show, the moment of the jump, and then the water stained red. The camera shook. Screams could be heard. Parents covered their children's eyes. Sam's story became a global phenomenon. Within days, The marine park was besieged by journalists, cameras, and activists. Some demanded justice. Others called for the permanent closure of the park. Many simply wanted to understand how a trained orca, raised in captivity, could turn into a killer in the blink of an eye. Inside the park, the atmosphere was somber. The main tank area was cordoned off, and the employees who were still working did so in silence, with dull expressions and tired eyes. In the administrative offices, lights were on late into the night, reviewing recordings, protocols, and veterinary reports. There was an urgent need for answers. Sam's family was notified that same afternoon. His wife, Emma, collapsed upon hearing the news. Their 8-year-old daughter didn't quite understand what had happened. "Is Daddy in the hospital?" she asked, and Emma could only hug her, crying. The house, which had always been filled with photos of Sam with Luna, with other trainers, with the ocean in the background, now looked like a mausoleum. Friends, colleagues, and former employees arrived with flowers, tears, and memories. A week later, a ceremony was held in the park behind closed doors. Only staff, family, and a few veteran coaches attended. There was no music, no long speeches. Just simple words, laden with emotion. One coach spoke through sobs about Sam's dedication, about how he taught the younger ones to trust, to care, to respect. Another recalled the years when Sam spent more time in the tank than in his own home. Sam's image was immortalized on a mural next to the main tank. It showed him smiling, stroking Luna's snout. Below, a phrase painted in navy blue read, "He dedicated his life to the wild. He never stopped loving." But not all the feelings were ones of tribute. Mixed feelings began to circulate among the staff. Some blamed the management for ignoring Luna's signs. Others blamed Sam himself for not cancelling the show when he noticed that something was wrong. And still others simply did not know who to blame. Grief was mixed with anger, helplessness, and fear. Luna was moved to an isolated section of the complex. She was monitored 24 hours a day with no direct human interaction. According to internal reports, her behavior ranged from apathy to agitation. No one knew what they would do with her. Some suggested relocating her to another marine park. Others suggested releasing her into the ocean with a group of wild orcas, even though they knew she probably wouldn't survive. But there was one question no one could answer. Why did she do it? Meanwhile, miles away, on the shores of Ocean View Cove, another young trainer was preparing to begin his career. Jake Donovan had dreamed of working with orcas since he was a child. He had seen them in documentaries, visited marine parks since he was a kid, and read every book he could find on animal behavior. When he was accepted into the training program at the Ocean View Cove Aquarium, he felt like he had won the lottery. His first day tragically coincided with the news of the attack on Sam Collins. As he put on his uniform and prepared for his first encounter with Echo, the park's star orca, he heard muffled murmurs in the trainer's room. Some were talking about Luna, about Sam, about how everything had changed. Jake felt a knot in his stomach, but he decided not to let fear get the better of him. He knew that working with wild animals was a risk, and he also knew that showing insecurity in front of an orca could be dangerous. He had to stay strong and focused. Echo was an imposing orca, bigger than Luna, faster, more unpredictable. She had a reputation for not bonding with any trainer. No one had ever developed a deep connection with her. But Jake, enthusiastic, believed that with time and patience, anything was possible. The first exercises were simple. Basic signals from the platform, positive reinforcement, visual coordination. Echo responded well. She even seemed curious. Jake smiled. He felt that everything was going according to plan, but something changed. Without warning, Echo began to swim with tighter, more tense movements. Her body cut through the water with force. Jake, still new, thought maybe she was bored or needed a break. But when he lowered his hand to give another signal, Echo lunged. The orca emerged with terrifying speed and closed her jaws around Jake's leg. It was so sudden, so brutal, that he didn't even scream. He fell into the water, dragged down by the animal's weight and strength. His mind was filled with images. The news about Sam, the warnings about Echo, the training sessions, his mother wishing him luck that morning. The pain was sharp, but fear dominated everything. He tried to break free, to hit her, to swim. Echo shook him like a piece of prey, submerging him deeper and deeper. The water grew thick and heavy. His ears rang. He couldn't get his bearings. He didn't know which way was up or down. All he could feel was the water rushing into his nose and the burning pain of the bite. From the platform, the senior coach shouted orders. They called over the radio, threw ropes, tried to lure Echo with food. But she didn't respond. She didn't obey. Jake was starting to lose strength. His arms were moving slowly. His lungs were at their limit. He felt like every second was lasting an eternity. And then, as if nothing had happened, Echo let go. She simply let go and swam away in circles. Jake floated to the surface, gasping for air, dazed, blood gushing from his leg. The senior trainer pulled him out of the water immediately. He dragged him to the platform and shouted for medical help. Jake was alive, he was breathing, but he didn't understand why. He looked back at the tank and saw Echo swimming calmly, as if he hadn't just attacked him, as if it had all been a bad dream. The park's siren sounded. Emergency personnel arrived. They loaded him onto a stretcher. The pain was real. The wound was deep, but he had survived, and that would change him forever. As the ambulance rushed him to the hospital, Jake Donovan lay staring at the ceiling of the vehicle, his eyes open but unfocused, his body shaking from shock more than pain. His leg was bleeding profusely despite the makeshift tourniquet the paramedics had applied. The ride took only 15 minutes, but for Jake, it felt like an eternity. A voice in his head repeated over and over, "I almost died. I almost died." In the emergency room, the doctors acted quickly. X-rays, cleaning the wound, emergency sutures. Echo's bite hadn't completely broken the bone, but it had torn muscles, ligaments, and tendons. The leg was severely compromised. Multiple reconstructive surgeries and months of physical therapy would be necessary. It was unclear whether he would ever walk normally again, let alone swim with orcas. During his first nights in the hospital, Jake couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he relived the moment, his jaws clenching. The feeling of being dragged out of control, the lack of air, the blood tinged with salt. Sometimes he woke up gasping for air, drenched in sweat, his heart pounding in his chest. The doctors prescribed painkillers, but what he needed most wasn't physical relief. It was to understand why. Why Echo had attacked him, why he had let go, why he had survived. News of the incident broke in the media the next day. The headlines were inevitable. Another attack at Marine Park, young trainer on the brink of death. Comparisons to the Sam Collins case were immediate. Some sensationalist media outlets even speculated that Echo and Luna had sent a message. Activists took advantage of the media attention to redouble their campaigns against animal captivity. "How many must die before these creatures are freed?" read the signs in front of the park entrance. Meanwhile, inside the aquarium, a storm was brewing. The administration ordered an internal investigation. Echo was quarantined in an observation tank with no human access. A committee of animal behavior experts was convened to review every moment of the training session, the recordings, feeding records, medical reports. They wanted to determine whether there had been negligence, a misreading of Echo's signals, or a sudden change in his health or temperament. Some trainers, upon viewing the videos, felt that Echo had given clear signs of discomfort prior to the attack. Irregular tail movements, prolonged submersion, circular swimming with sharp turns. Others claimed that it had been a completely unpredictable episode. But they all agreed on one thing. Jake was new. Perhaps too new to be alone in a session with such an unstable orca. Jake's family flew to the city as soon as they heard the news. His mother hugged him so tightly that the young man couldn't hold back the tears. Not because of the physical pain, but because of the emotional burden he had been carrying. For the first time, Jake allowed himself to break down his facade of strength, hope, and dreams, to break down as a young man who had come face to face with death and now had to decide whether he would ever face it again. During his weeks of recovery, Jake went through several stages. At first, fear dominated. He woke up with nightmares. He couldn't look at images of killer whales without feeling anxious. He refused to talk about it. He avoided responding to messages from his fellow trainers. He even considered leaving the marine world altogether. But then, something began to change. Maybe it was the conversation with the senior trainer who had rescued him, or maybe it was simply the fact that he was still alive. Little by little, Jake began to analyze what had happened not from an emotional perspective, but from a rational one. He began to watch footage of the session. He began to notice the mistakes he had made, the signs he had misinterpreted, the rash decisions. He started writing a journal, documenting every memory, every thought, every feeling. Over time, anger and fear turned into understanding, and understanding turned into determination. Months later, when he was finally able to walk without assistance, Jake returned to the park, not as an active trainer, but as an observer. After lengthy discussions, the administration had decided to keep Echo in the park, but without direct interaction with trainers. Her tank had been modified with additional safety measures. Since then, she had not been seen behaving aggressively. Jake watched Echo from afar. She swam with the same elegance as always. Her body was a poem of muscle and water. Her eyes were black and unfathomable. She didn't recognize him. Or maybe she did. But she didn't make a move toward him, she just kept swimming. That night, Jake made a decision. He would not give up on his dream, but he would do it differently. He started down a new path, one based on a deep understanding of animal behavior. He studied ethology. He trained in animal stress management in captivity. He gave talks to young trainers about safety, humility, and emotional reading. He became an advocate not for spectacle, but for respect. Jake no longer wanted to be the star of the show. He wanted to be the voice that reminded everyone that these creatures, no matter how trained they may seem, are still forces of nature. And although the fear was still there, he accepted it as part of his new identity. Not as a weakness, but as a sign that he was awake, alive, human. Echo remained in the park. He never attacked again. But he never had physical contact with a human again either. To Jake, she wasn't a monster. She was a mirror, a wild reflection of something he also carried inside. Something unpredictable, something to be respected. From then on, every time he approached the tank's railing and watched her swim, he remembered a truth he no longer needed to repeat aloud. Nothing in this world can be taken for granted, least of all the trust of an ocean predator.